Hi, Sarah here, and Wednesday morning it is. Now, I was wanting to do a piece of crochet craft every Wednesday, so I've got a couple actually for today. I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done because I'm at the dentist this afternoon and I think there's a tooth coming out. Not looking forward to that. But I've got a lot of toothache, so it needs seeing to. But to start with today, I'm going to be looking at a little dolly item. So my Cindy's here as a model, and this is the little hat. Now, I've just made some of these with some ponchos as sets to sell on Etsy, but I thought I'd share the pattern with you because it's a very simple little pattern, quick and easy, and it looks absolutely great on her. Let me just slide that on. There you go. So we're going to make this little hat today, but it's sort of a bit of a double-edged thing because there's two things at the same time. Because I received this parcel, which I've been waiting for, and I knew the yarn in here would make a great little hat. So that is what we're going to do. So I'll show you that in a second. So I'm going to pop Cindy and her hat slightly to one side there. I have my needle there for sewing up. I have let me turn it round. I hope you can see this. I'm still trying to work these cameras out, trying not to blur everything. It's a 2.5mm crochet hook. My scissors, of course. And in here is going to be the yarn I'm going to be using. I've used a sock wool on this one that I did before. So this is of a similar weight, but they're mini skeins, which is perfect for making doll bits and pieces. Now, I've just got to show you this parcel. I've already opened this little bit, so I've had a quick sneak peek, but the way this lady packages our items as well are absolutely amazing. So here we go, in we go. Just look at this, just look at this. Oh my goodness. So as you can see, crinkle crinkle, it is from What Mustard Made. Now, let me move that up a little bit. Okay, there you can see it. So it's tracymustard.com. I will pop a link onto my site if you do want to have a look. She has some fabulous stitch markers. She also does full-size skeins. It's just that these tiny mini ones are perfect for me to do odd bits and bobs. Now, these are the actual stitch markers I have had. So as you can see, Pussycat's with me. I've got a pretty little autumny themed leaf at the end there. And thank you, Sarah. Love, Tracy. It's always very personal, and I think there's nothing better than a gift when it is that personal. So let me see if I can get it a little bit closer. I'm trying to get used to not blurring the camera so you can see things clear, but the angle I'm personally looking at, I'm not quite sure. I don't think that's blurring. I think that's working nicely. So we've got a little pussycat in a boat there, pussycat's head, and then a lovely little autumnal leaf there. So they're my new stitch markers. So I'm going to put them to one side. I get a little free bag of tea. I love it when people do this as well. They pop a little gift in there for you. So that's a nice tea for later because I am a tea drinker, so that's good. Again, beautifully laid out. A little bit of sort of scrunchy stuff in there. And these are the mini skeins that she has. Now, we have a lovely one here. Let's have a look, see what it says. Oh, she's actually written on the back, which is fabulous. It's Burt Slub Edition, finger in weight. It's merino and nylon superwash. It's a 10-gram ball, but for your dolls you're going to get something out of there because you remember there's a lot more meterage as we've got here. It says there's 40 meters on there, so even though it's tiny weeny and it ideally does need rolling into a ball, I'm not going to be doing that this morning, so I'm gonna have to be a little bit careful when I'm using it. But love that. I'm not going to use that one. I don't think I'm going to use that one anyway. Let's have a look at what else we've got. Couldn't resist this. Just look at the fluff on that. Just look at the colours as well. Absolutely stunning. Let's have a quick nosy. All right. We have, it's a kid mohair. 72% kid mohair, 28% silk. And again, you've got about 42 meters there. I mean, as you can see, it's a small batch of hand-dyed yarn. So I mean, a lot of her stuff is very unique, very special because it is hand dyed. That feels so nice. I want to save that for something special, maybe a little doll shawl or something like that, but that's gorgeous as well. Now this one, I just like the colours because I'm a big fan of variegated yarns, as you can see, generally, but I like the way this was sort of cream and then it's almost a variegation within a variegation. Can you see? So I do like that one. That's the first one I actually had a look at before I saw these. And this is Albert. So what have we got up to now? We've got two Burts, two different types of Burts, so that must be the colourways, and we have an Albert here. And Albert is actually a 4-ply, and we've got approximately 40 meters again, so it's a 10-gram ball again, so I should be fine getting this hat out of it. And we've got a really bright and shiny one. We like a bit of pastel in there. And again, this is actually a DK, but we have, let's have a look, 10 grams, yes, again, but this is 22.5 meters. Remembering, obviously, for a heavier weight yarn, you're going to get less meterage. So sometimes it's worth looking at the meterage, not the actual weight of the ball, because obviously they're all different. So I think for today, I'm going to be using this one. I'm quite curious to see how the patternation comes out in it. So I'm going to pop the rest back, but how beautiful are they? And these gorgeous little stitch markers and a nice little gifty tee in there as well. Like I say, I don't know what I'll be having that today. I think after the dentist I might not want anything, but we will see. And I've got toothache at the moment, so I'm not going to spoil it by having it when my mouth is sore. So I'll pop this off to one side as well, and let's have a look at this little skein. I'm going to get my scissors in just to cut this off. It's for my label. Now, like I say, in a perfect world, this does need rolling into a ball, but for the actual video, I haven't really got time because I couldn't do a box opening and do it into a ball at the same time, so I had to make a conscious decision there. So very carefully take off these little strands that hold the skein together. So you have to be careful because one of them usually is the link for unwinding it. Let's see what we can get. I'm hoping I'm not going to make a mess of this, so I'm just going to be very careful. So some of it might be a bit slower than required, because you can make a complete and utter mess if you do this. So where am I going to put it? I'm going to pop it over there. Hopefully it's not going to get too tangled. I will sort it out after the fact if it does. So you can see how it runs. We've got quite a lot of cream, and then the odd little bit of these really vibrant colours. So I think I'm going to start probably about here, and I'm going to do my slip knot. Where's my hook? There it is. So my actual cable's in the way here. I'm just moving my microphone cable because I'm going to end up catching it. So here we go. We have a slip knot onto the hook. We're going to start nice and simply with 5 chain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're now going to slip into that very first chain, and we're going to do a slip knot into it, slip stitch, correct myself, into it. There we go. So we created a little loop. You can barely see the circle, but it's this little circle here we need to be working in. So can you see that? So it's this little bit here, but when you've tightened it up, sometimes that can't be seen. So make it aware where it is before you start doing anything else. We're going to do 3 chain. That is going to count as our treble, first treble. We are then going to do 2 more trebles into the ring, so right into that center point. As soon as you've done a few stitches, the center point will show more, but to start with it is a little bit difficult to see. Let's have a look. That was a treble. So we have 3 trebles. It's going to be very granny square base, this hat, so from the 3 there, we're now going to have 2 chain. You see we've got a bit of pink coming in there. Then I'm going to do another 3 trebles. Oh, we got some pretty colours now. 2, or not, I've split it, be careful, 2, 3. So we've got 2 sets now. I need 2 chain. We're going to do another 3 set of trebles. So we have 1, 2 and 3. We're going to have 2 chain. We have our final set, so we've got 4 sets of 3 trebles. So there's 1 set, 2 chain, 1 set, 2 chain, 3 set, 2 chain, final set. So 3 more trebles into that center. Can you see how the center's become quite clear now? So it's not sort of as hard as when you first started doing it. So I'm going to need to join here, but I'm actually going to join it with a double crochet. The reason being is if I just did it with a slip stitch, it ends up staying over here. If I do it with a double crochet, it brings it slightly more central. There are different ways of doing that. You might have a preferred way of joining, but however you join, we're going to be joining that granny square. So there we go. So I have my first little round there. This is where I've got to be careful. I've got to be really careful, gentle when I'm unrolling this, because I really don't want it to tangle because it's so beautiful. And please, if you do it yourself, wind it into a ball first. It does make a lot more sense, because otherwise it's going to tangle. So we have one round of grannies. We now have a second round of just a granny square. So I start with 3 chain for mine. That counts as our first stitch. And into directly below, so you can see straight below, I'm going to do 2 more trebles first. That's 2 trebles. Now this is going to create my corner. So for a corner, it's going to be 2 sets of these 3 trebles. So you go your 1, 2, 3. We have 2 chain because it's a corner. We're then going to go back into that space and do another 3 trebles. 1, 2, oh, and 3. It's because I tried looking up at the camera at the same time then. So corners next. So we miss those 3 and jump into where that 2 chain space is, and we're going to do 3 trebles. We like that colour. Then we're going to do 2 chain, and then we're going to do 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. That's my second corner created. So you can see the corners come in now. Into the next 2 chain space, and it's a corner again still. So we have 3 trebles. We have 2 chain. We have 3 trebles. So that's our third corner, and you can see how we've got some lovely colours coming in there. Sometimes using a variegation can distract when you're working. Just going to pop that down a minute just so we can unwind a little bit more yarn. I know this is going to get a knot in towards the end. It's a very silly way of doing it really. Anyway, I've just lengthened it a bit. So we've got one more corner to do. So in we go. 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. 2 chain because it's a corner, and 3 trebles again into that same space. And we need to join. And again, I'm going to join with a double crochet. So I'm going into the top. Remember, it was 3 chain you started with. So the top of that 3 chain, I'm going to pull it through, and I'm going to do a double crochet. So it's brought me slightly more central than to one side. That's the only reason I do that. So I'm going to do 3 chain. 1, 2, 3. We're going to directly below 2 more trebles. Now this isn't a corner. So if it's not a corner, the basic rule with a granny square is if it's not a corner, it's only 1 set of 3 trebles. If it is a corner, it's the 2 sets with some chain between it. So we're going to jump to that corner now. 1, 2, it's exactly the same as the other corners. So we do 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles. And 3. So that is one side, one corner done. So your next stitch, I don't know about getting it tangled on itself, I'm getting it tangled on the doll. The next stitch is a side one. So if it's a side, it's only 3 trebles. And we're going into the spaces now rather than the stitches, so it's a lot easier. All right, so that's a side. Our next one is a corner. So we need to go in 3 trebles, 2 chain, oh, a bit of neon coming in there, and 3 trebles. So that's your 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles into that space. 1, 2, and 3. Side next, just 3 trebles. 1, 2, and 3. The spaces are quite obvious to see, which is quite good. You can see where they are. Maybe not so much for the sides, but they are there. So corner, remember 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles. My corners will always be that, whether I'm making something as tiny as this, or I'm making a huge blanket or a cushion or whatever I'm doing, if I'm doing a granny square and it has a corner, it will always be, for me, there are variations, remember, but for me it will be 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles. Let me move the yarn again. We're not doing too bad actually, we are tangling a little, but it's not too bad. There we go, so I've pulled it out a little bit further. So you'll see this blob of yarn in a bit. It's too nice to get it spoiled though, so I do have to be careful. Now back to the centre. So we're on a side one, so 3 trebles. We have a corner, 2 trebles, 3 trebles. Why did I say 2 trebles? That's because I've done 2, I think. That's 2 chain, 2 chain. Remember, it's 3 trebles, 2 chain, 3 trebles for the corner. So we have 1, 2, and we have 3. Again, I'm joining in the top of that 3 chain, making sure I'm not picking up a skinny bit, make sure it's quite solid. I'm going to pull it through and I'm going to do a double crochet to bring it back to the center. So that is a good start to the hat. Now, as much as we've just done a square there, we're going to change it now. Now we need to round it off a little bit, so we're going to be doing just 3 trebles into every single space. Okay, I'm just going to move my scissors. I just want to mark off where I am before I lose it. There we are. So it's 3 trebles into every single, even the corners. So wherever there's a space, so we've got 1 here, 1 here, because you've got 2 on the sides now, 1 in the corner, 2 on the sides, 1 in the corner, all the way around. So let's get that treble chain going. So 3 chain, 2 trebles. It starts to make it curve round by not doing corners and rounding it off slightly. So I'm into my second one now. Can you see? Sorry, I went a little bit quick there. And it's just 3 trebles. Doll's foot's determined to catch that yarn. Corner, but only 3 trebles, because we're getting rid of it as a corner now. We don't want it as a corner anymore. So it's just going to be 3 trebles. We're moving on to a side. Again, 3 trebles. Like I said, the pattern's so easy. At this point, that's all you need to know. It's just 3 trebles in every single space. There's no chain in between. Just jump 3 trebles. People do chain between on their granny square. It's a very common sort of attribute of a pattern, and when you're writing a pattern, it makes the pattern easier for the reader. So I think there is a place to put that chain in. I personally don't, because I think it makes my work loose, and I really do like my work nice and tight. Let me just undo a little bit more. A little bit worried I'm going to get a knot just up there. Oh no, we're behaving, we're behaving. It is a really soft yarn as well, which is helping. Can you see how it's curving up? So I'm going to push it that way because I don't want it that way. Colours are coming out gorgeous as well. So there we go. Again, every single square, every single square, every single space even. Sometimes it's best to watch what I do, not listen to me. 2. Oh, we've got a nice bright colour again. 3. We're nearly round. Like I say, it's not a hat that should take you long. Even if you are a beginner and you only know your basic stitches, there is only trebles, there is only double crochets in this pattern altogether. So again, if I go a bit fast, you can slow me down on your settings, or you can just pause me if you know what you're doing, and you can just sort of acknowledge how many rounds there are and move on to the next one. So that is our first round. Oh, that's not even a treble, is it? That's a double crochet. Don't forget to wrap your yarn before you do that treble. Easy done if you've been doing a lot of double crochets, which I have been doing. So into the top, make it a double crochet. Can you see we've got a proper little shape coming there, like a little basket. So pushing it out. Now there are 2 rows. 2 rows, I think they've actually got 3. I'm saying 2, there is not. There is 3 rounds where we just do that, where it is just 3 sets of trebles into every single space. So that's our first one. Remember, when we start each round, it has to start with 3 chain, and into the space directly below is where you're going to have those other 2 trebles. Because remember, you only need 2 there because the chain counts as 1. So I am going to speed up a little bit. Like I say, if you're a beginner, just remember we are doing 3 rounds of just 3 trebles in each one. or just slow me down on the settings. Just don't listen to my voice because I sound drunk when you do that. Oh, I love that fuchsia colour that's just come in there. That's really pretty. As you can see, I've got plenty of yarn still, and to be honest, there's only one more round in this, and then a few DC rows and the peak of the cap. There's not much to it, to be perfectly honest. This is a pattern I've also extended for my smart dolls. So you can make it for bigger dolls. In fact, my midi blides also get one that's like this. As much as I've got my pretty stitch markers, we don't need stitch markers because obviously we start with 3 chain. I'm not quite sure what I did there. Let's take that out. If in doubt, take it out. A strange little mantra there. Right, do it again. There was one. That is the second one. That is the third one. It's round the doll's foot again. She's determined to get it. 1, 2, nice baby blue coming in, and a little bit of fuchsia. I like the way the colours are so random. Like I said, I'm a big variegated yarn fan, as you've probably noticed, but yeah, I just love how you just don't know what's coming next. And sometimes, especially if you're working on something that's a bit tedious, that colour break sort of makes it a little bit more interesting. So if you're looking forward to what the next colour is, so to speak. Caught it again. Let me just pull a bit more out. We're doing very well. I'm very impressed that it's not tangling. Even when I roll them into balls, quite often I tangle them. So I'm quite happy to do it old school. I haven't got any equipment to do it with. I like the type of ball you get when you do it old school. Oh, I've just knocked it. Is our vision still okay? Sometimes it doesn't when I've knocked it. So we got 1, 2 and 3. So like I say, you don't need a stitch marker because you can see that's where we started. So into the top of the 3 chain. Well, it's a little bit tight. That's a little bit loose. You see how it was loose before I went across? Don't want it loose, so pull it tight. Then go into the top, pull it through, pull it through. So that was our second, just 3 trebles in each one. So we need 1 more. So 3 chain to start with counts as our first treble, and 2 chain following. 2 chain. I'm at it again, and I'm going to blame it on my tooth. I'm going to say I'm delirious. But I always sound like that, don't I? So I can't blame it on my tooth. So again, just 1 set of 3 trebles into every single space. It's quite a funky colour in this because you've got these sort of real brights, pastels, and then you've got some neons in there, and then some subtle colours, and you absolutely love it. You can't always find skeins this size. I'm always on the lookout. Like I say, she does have some on there. I mean, when they're hand dyeing, obviously it's a limited amount, so you can't always get the same one, but I think sometimes that's the fun of it, especially if you sort of, well, if you were selling an item, it's more of a one of a kind, so it makes it a little bit more special. Or if you're actually pulling it out again and move it over there, it's taking a lot longer by doing this. I forgot what I was saying now. Of course, that's what I was saying, one of a kinds. But if you're making them for your dolls, again, or as a one-off for yourself, it just makes it that bit more special, doesn't it? Using a little tiny skein of this gorgeous hand-dyed variegated yarn. I know I have said it's soft, but now the item's getting larger, you can usually sort of feel if a yarn's going to get a little bit harder or something like that. This is still staying really soft in my fingers. It feels really nice while I'm working on it. The other thing is, I do think it's important to support sort of small businesses. If wherever I can, that is something I do. I wish I had the finances to support more, because I think there's so many people out there that are so clever I mean, I'm a small business myself, and I know how much it means to me when somebody buys an item or they're supporting me, because you've got to also remember when it's a small business, it's, you know, it's something that could be paying the bills, it's something that helps that person live, or maybe that person can have a treat because of it, and they put a lot of love into it and a lot of effort. So I'm very, very big on supporting sort of small companies. Okay, we all buy things off big companies as well, of course we do, but if I can, I will go sort of more sort of, oh, I can't think of the word now, independent, perhaps independent, something like that. Right, so now I've done my 3 rounds of just double, I'm fibbing, of just trebles. 3 trebles into every space I did for 3 rounds. Now we're going to move on to just double crochets. Remember, we're not wrapping anymore, we're just going straight. In fact, I'll do a chain first, and we're going to go straight into the stitch. Now we're stitching into stitches, so it's a little bit sort of harder. You've got to make sure you get each one. Can you see I'm picking up both? Can you see how I want both parts of that? I don't just want the front or the back part, because otherwise it'll be loose. So this first round, I'm not going to put a stitch marker in, because I'll see when I get to the end. After that, I would recommend you do pop a little stitch marker or a little piece of yarn or whatever you use to mark your place in, because it just makes it a little bit easier for yourself. So we're on double crochets now, UK terms, single crochet if we were referring to a US term. Obviously the double crochets take a little bit longer than our trebles, but what they're doing essentially is tightening the work up, because it needs to fit on the doll's head. It doesn't want to be too loose. I don't think it matters if it was a little bit loose. Again, you may need to adjust your hook depending on what yarn you're using, or depending on what your personal tension is. So sometimes, even when I'm making a pattern, it sometimes takes me to make 1 or 2 before I've decided on how the fit is going to be. So you do have to play sometimes. I think I'm a little bit tight on my tension, but I don't think I'm anything much above average, to be honest. Oh, can you see I'm nearly round? So I can just see where there's no more trebles left, basically, to go into the top of. So this is where you might need a stitch marker. Now, shall I use one of Tracy's? I will do. I'll use this little tiny one, because I do use small stitch markers because of the work I'm doing. So in we go, and click, and we have our stitch marker in. We're going to do 2 more rounds if my yarn behaves, which it is doing. Oh, I'm so pleased with this yarn. It's going to tangle, I know it will at some point, but I think I might get away with it. It's very close. So 2 more rounds of just double crochet. So I'm going to do a amigurumi style. So I'm not going to mess about joining and then chaining and then going round. I'm just going to go round till I get to my stitch marker. So we've got the one, and this is our second one. So this is the band of the actual hat. Again, just jumping in like this rather than sort of testing the waters with the yarn, because I thought it might be fun just to go for it. I'm not 100% sure on the fit on her. It is the same weight of yarn I've used before, but again, like with any yarn, the variation is massive depending on where you've bought it from, what company it is, who's made it. So it, you know, it might be a good idea to check it on ahead, but I'm not going to worry too much. I've got so many different sized dolls that if worse comes to worse, one of the others, or if worse comes to worse again, my granddaughter will be more than happy to take it off me for one of hers. So we're on our second round, nearly there. Like I said, I'm not having to think about counting because I've got my stitch marker. And there I am. So that's our second round. You see, I love how the colours are coming out, and that's so pretty. That is really pretty. Let me just extend the yarn a little bit more. If you do it carefully, you can get away with this. You couldn't do it with a large one. Oh dear me. And there's a couple of times I have done it with a large skein, or I'm just trying to wind it up, and I've made such a mess, and you can't do that when yarn's expensive. So good job I do bits, because I end up breaking it up into sections and doing smaller items. So last round before we get ready to do the peak. which is just as simple. It's not something that's difficult to do. I hope there's going to be a few of you going to try this out. If there is a requirement for a Smart Doll one, I would do that as well, but to be honest, it's not hugely different. A little bit more detail and maybe a few more rounds, because obviously our head is quite a lot larger. You see, you'll get a different patternation with a double crochet as well. Problem is, you see a lot of these yarns, and they'll advertise them as knitting yarns if they're variegated, and you think, oh, that pattern looks great, I like how it's sitting. But when you come to crochet it, it's a different matter altogether, because you are twisting the yarn differently while you're crocheting compared with knitting. So when you're doing that, you do have to watch what you're doing. I find it quite interesting. I find it quite fascinating how it comes out different with different stitches as well, because obviously a treble's a long stitch, so it will take up more yarn, so it will take the variation different, whereas a double crochet is a smaller stitch, so you'll get perhaps more intense in certain areas. Here we go. See, that only took a second or two there to go around. So if you were unsure or I've gone a little bit fast, all I have done is 3 rounds of double crochet. That's it. Just all the way around, stitch marker 3 times. Now we're going to start with the peak of the hat, and I'll pull a little bit more yarn out. Oh, some lovely colours come in as well, and it's easy peasy weasy really. We're going to do 1 double crochet. In fact, we can take the stitch marker out because it is that easy to be able to see where you are. I love stitch markers, they are very useful, but they do drive me mad sometimes depending on what I'm doing. So I did 1 double crochet there. Into the next stitch, you can see I'm already wrapping. I'm going to do 2 trebles. Just 2 trebles. And I'm also going to do the same in each of the next 9. So that's the first one. So we've got 10 in total, 10 stitches in total that are going to just have 2 trebles in each single one of them. So that's our second one, that's our third one, 4. Make sure you do the 2 in each, because I nearly forgot the other day. I'm like trolling along and I realised I've only got 1 in each one. Easy to count because I've taught now, so I've lost count. So I've got 1, 2, 3, that's our 4th. So this is our 5th. Just 2 trebles into the stitch below. That was 5, I said, weren't it? So 6. I'll double check the count anyway when I get to the end, just in case I've done an extra one. 7. Or not. You see the shape coming? You've got a nice little shape there. 8. I think this is 8. Could be 7. We'll have a look in a second. 8. 9. And I think that's 10. We will have a double check though before we go on further. Luckily trebles are easy to count, so we have 1 set of 2 there, 2 sets, 3 sets, 4 sets, 5 sets, 6 sets, 7 sets, 8 sets, 9 sets and 10 sets. That was lucky because I wasn't sure what I was on there. I am now going to do a double crochet all the way around till we get back to the beginning of that peak. So we're just going all the way around the back. We're almost there. Can't actually see how long have we taken. I don't know, I can't see. I'll have a look in a moment. Determined to drop these stitches. Do that again and get the yarn comfortable. Sometimes it's better literally to just stop, reset your hands, reset your position, and off you go again. Right, we're coming up to the peak now, and the last part of this is we are just going to do 1 double crochet into every one of those peak stitches, so each one of those trebles basically. So we're just moving up now, so here we go, treble, double crochet, double crochet. It just solidifies it a little bit. You could have left it as just trebles and said that was it and fastened off, but I think by finishing the peak with the double crochets, it just makes it a little bit firmer and a little bit neater. It's like sometimes you can finish off with just slip stitches, and that can make it very neat as well, but that's not necessary. They can also make it very tight slip stitches, so you have to be careful. We're nearly there. I've got enough yarn looking at it. I might even get a second hat, or I might just make, I don't know, could make a little scarf perhaps. Again, that's just experimenting. So my last stitch will be a slip stitch. So in, pull it through, pull it through. I'm going to get my scissors, quick cut. And there we have our gorgeous little, give that a little stretch, the peak, it makes it stick out better, peaked hat. So let's just sew the ends in and we're going to try it on her. Now I'm saying, but I'm just guessing that I've got enough yarn there to do another hat. The best way to do it is, I know the yarn was 10 grams, so pop the hat, the finished item, on the weighing scales and see how much yarn it actually took, and by doing that we can establish how much. I'm just stitching through this, make sure it's nice and solid. I like to go around a few, well, not a few times, maybe one time, a solid time. So I'm just threading through my trebles at the top, so we can get rid of that one. And then we've just got the one at the peak to sew in. Yeah, but as I was saying, you can weigh it. So for example, if I weigh this and it only came to 5 grams, I know I should have another 5 grams left. You can then weigh that as well if you want to double check. And you know you've got enough to actually do the hat. Let me turn that inside out to sew it in. So I'm just basically just stitching it through, and I'm going to run it along the double crochet line because it's denser, so it's less likely to let the stitches drop out. Again, I'm sure you have your own way of doing that, so this is just there for information if somebody isn't so comfortable with doing it. So I just threaded it through, make sure it's not too tight, then I will trim it off. There we go. So we have our hat. Let's see how it fits. Come here, missus, let's see. Now again, because this was a bit of a guess, I'm hoping, and I think it's perfect. Just look at that. Yeah, I am really pleased with that. I'm really pleased with the yarn. As I said, I've bought stitch markers from her before. I've not really done the yarn because you miss the mini skeins sometimes because they do sell out quite quickly, but keep an eye on the sites or just look for mini skeins generally. But I would completely recommend that, and I think that's made her a gorgeous little hat. This little hat will be staying with me. I may make another one to pop on my Etsy. I need to weigh the yarn, see what I've got left. Pretty confident there is enough there to make another hat. So I hope you enjoyed that. I've got a little Christmassy crochet one coming up. I'm hoping to do today, depends what the dentist decides to do with my poor mouth. But basically, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you get some little hats made as well. Please like, subscribe and share, it all helps. And click on that notification button if you do want notification of any other videos that I'm popping up there. So thank you for watching, and I will see you all later, I hope. Bye.